with the positives.
Yes, I love it. Start with the positive, Dyson.
Offensively, I saw some very good things. I thought getting Ridley involved early, you saw what happens when you get a rhythm. Tough catches become routine.
Yes, I love it.
Tough catches become routine. There seems to be a rapport there. He's moving chains. Saw the ball go vertically downfield.
Protection was
pretty good. Ran the football pretty effectively. The run game become non-existent there late in the game, obviously because of the score, but the fact that we got 20 carries and almost 100 yards, like right about 94 yards, I believe. That was the positives in this. Now, the rest of the game, we could have just forget it. Like, I didn't know what you say about that. I thought, let me start with Coach. Callahan did his best impersonation of what's Seattle's coach back in the day?
Pete Carroll?
Pete Carroll. You're on the 1 yard line, 4 downs.
First and goal at the 1, and you throw it four
times. The first one, I was like, okay. The second one, I was like, But then the third and fourth one, I was like,
I would have done it on the third down.
At least, at the very minimum.
Hang on, Dice. I'm going to come back to you. Let me go to analytics, man. First and goal at the 1, and you pass it 4 times. Is there anywhere analytically that says that is a great idea?
I would say there's probably nowhere that will say that is a high success rate of doing it. Now, should you maybe do it because you're seeing a jumbo their base defense, I believe, is what it was. And listen, credit to the Lions defense because their formations basically allowed them to do whatever needed to be done, and they were really quick to diagnose their plays. However, you have 1 timeout. There should at least be 1 run among those timeouts. And mine was like third down because you go pass. They're probably expecting another pass. Why don't you do a run? Do something. And then they just decided not to do it.
Or how about run on first down? I trust Pollard to get 1 yard. I do.
I forgive you on first down. Second down, I'm like, okay. But third and fourth, I was like, that's. I don't know what that says about where your mentality is as a play caller, as its ability to call.
It is one of the best run defenses
but
as
they
well.
Ran the ball pretty effectively.
Yeah,
though.
and I also think there's a difference between. Isn't there? Wouldn't you say there's a difference? And listen, I'm not excusing. They should have ran it at least once. But I do think that there's a difference between Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader being there right at the goal line, and everybody kind of crowded around that area, than there is 20 yards out. So like, I don't excuse it, and I don't think it's the right call. But I do understand why a couple of passes were thrown.
If I can't run it 4 times from 1 yard.
You wouldn't have been able to run it 4 times, though. That's the problem.
You were going to have to throw at one point or another.
I think they would have scored on the first or second try. Pollard drags people.
Yeah. And I would have said, like I said, the first time, yes, I can understand because that goes against conventional thinking.
Yeah.
Right? So you think you can maybe sneak one in. Second one, you say, okay, they maybe think and run now. I can maybe sneak this in. But third and fourth, if you're going for in the fourth down, I think to your point, I'm going to see if I can get this in on run game, knowing I got that extra down to use. But it was pass. That's why I say remind me of the remnants of the Super Bowl where Pete Carroll decided I got this guy who's known to just bully people, drag people, all this stuff, and I don't put the ball in his hands. Now,
coaches outsmart themselves all the time.
Sometimes he overthought that one.
And listen, we're going to talk about specific things in this game that really don't matter in terms of winning this football game. But like in terms of the big picture look, like that was kind of troubling with me with Brian Callahan.
There's one thing every game where, and this is what I was thinking of, there's like one thing every game that it's really hard for me to defend, and this is that one. There's nothing I can defend here.
And we've had it with Will Levis, but as far as coaching, that was it. Then the play on the field, I'm going to start with defense.
Okay.
Defense gave up 52 points statistically. That's what it's going to say. The defense gave up 52 points. But a lot of this was not on defense.
No. They scored off all 4 turnovers.
All 4 turnovers.
And they had 303 return yards.
And should have been 2 punt returns. Had 1 punt return. I thought the defense, given the circumstances, did okay. And the reason why I say okay is when you have sudden change and field is flipped on you like that, you got to get stopped sometimes. You got to reduce that from a 7 to 3. And they didn't do that. So that's why it's okay. But there's only so much a defense can do. If my drives are 22 yards, 27 yards, 12 yards, whatever, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think I'm close. If that's the case in the National Football League, this becomes, we're working on red zone offense. That's what Detroit was doing. This was Thursday practice. On Thursdays, we typically work, Thursday and Fridays, we usually work red zone, run game, pass game, short yardage football. That's usually the schedule of an NFL team. Wednesdays, implementation. You work some third down, some open field stuff. Thursday and Friday, you condense the field a little bit. You start working on red zone and goal line stuff. Friday, you emphasize a little bit of everything, especially third down, 2-minute offense, and that's what you go. This is what Detroit's offense was today. It was their red zone offense, and they got to work on some things. No pressure.
It was like practice.
Yeah, it was.
It really was.
And golf, I mean, he twisted his ankle, whatever that was, but it just was low impact, low stress, going into a big matchup they have coming up next week.
If I would have told you before the game, Jared Goff, y'all, is going to throw for 85 yards. You think the outcome is
you think the Titans win? I mean, even if it's close, you're thinking
52-14.
52.
But it's to your point. I mean, it's not all statistically, but it's all hidden yardage. I mean, 303 return yards. Have y'all ever seen that before in the NFL?
It was ridiculous, and it's at this point you have to fire Colt Anderson. Like whether people think that's justified or not, I think right now I don't think you'd find anybody besides Colt Anderson's family saying it's not justified. It's not going to fix anything. But
maybe Mark Mariani, that's his boy.
Well, it's not going to listen. It's not going to fix anything. Because the problem was in the preseason. We talked about this at the 53-man deadline. We talked about it on this show, like the way that they constructed the roster, the roster decisions that Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan either made or Rand Carthon made solely did not really lend itself well to having good special teams play on the field.
Okay.
But
when you have 3 punts blocked,
no, listen.
You give up a 70-yard kick return, a 64-yard punt return,
I'm not saying it's just the players.
a 90-yard punt return for a touchdown, a penalty on a non-return fair catch.
I'm not saying it's the players. I'm just saying that it also doesn't help. Like the first Khalif Raymond return, 3 players were right there to be able to tackle him, and they just kind of stood there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean.
So is that on coaching?
That's why I say
that one I wouldn't put on coaching, but the other ones I would put on coaching. And then, you see across the league all these big returns happening on the kickoff, which is the whole point of the kickoff rule. But again, those guys need to be somewhere. Yeah. They need to be at their spots, and they're like not at their spots hardly ever.
Never has a big return on a kickoff? Titans. Never.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
because they have Jaquan Jackson out there running horizontal.
Well, I mean, I'm hearing y'all, but I think to Zach's point, if it's not going to change anything, then don't change it. I mean, it's like,
but I think you need to change it.
But that just disrupts the whole. That to me, that disrupts even more than what you already got.
That's a great point.
I mean,
that's a great point.
I mean, because we don't expect the assistant coach who was here for both Ackerman and, by the way, because the assistant coach was here for Ackerman, it's here for Colt Anderson. His name escapes me. I think it's like Anthony Robinson as well, but I could be wrong on that. I mean, it's not going to change anything because you're still fielding the same players. But like, I go back to they got missed tackles. They have issues of being at the right spot at the right time. They lack football instincts, and that's something that Nick Vannett said about this team as a whole. Is like the players are lacking football instinct. So it's like, okay, well, some of that is them, but then some of that is like Colt Anderson's got to do something. I mean, he's not. It doesn't look like he's doing anything. And I look at Jaquan Jackson, I'm like, they totally overrated his skill set because he's running horizontal and he ain't running vertical. And that's something that I feel like should be drilled into his head by the coach. So I don't think it's going to fix anything, but I totally understand why they would need to fire Colt Anderson. If anything, it's more of a sacrificial lamb PR move. But, it's not going to fix it because the issues run deep.
Yeah, but that would be the only reason to do it, just to show that you're doing something. I mean, to me, it's just kind of counterproductive. I just don't think you just go start firing one piece at a time when it's a collective effort. Today happened to be the special teams. And they've had their ups and downs. Defense has struggled at times as well. We know the woes on offense at times as well. So to me, it's not just one guy here or there. It's a collective disappointment at different points of the season so far. And to me, that's
too early. It's too early.
It's too
you guys do think it's I don't think it's too early.
I think we're headed down a path where that stuff is going to happen.
So you just laid it all out just a few minutes ago.
But there's going to be changes. There's going to be changes somewhere or another. But we're 7-8 games into a first year of a regime when there's a lot of issues.
All right. Let's talk about it. We've got plenty of time. We've got another 2.5 hours with you.
It's all special teams talk the rest of it.
No, we had
had
one positive. You want to know another one? And granted, I haven't looked since the outcomes of today because the Patriots did win and the Titans got their doors blown off them. But the Titans going into today a 3-point favorite next week at home against New England.
Oh, that's changing by
It'll be a pick 'em by the end of the week.
I'm going to look during the break and see if it changes. All right, if you want in, we're going to the phones. Your reaction, again, just lay down on the couch and vent, man. 52-14, the final. Titans 1-6. 615-737-1045. This is Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play. Visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. It is Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. If you want in, 615-737-1045. Titans fall 52-14. They are 1-6. If you want to vent, we're here. Lee Company, all you need. Visit Lee Company online at leecompany.com. Brent Doherty, Zach Lyons, the doctor, Kevin Dyson, and you. 615-737-1045. Larissa, first up today on Titans Talkback. Larissa, what's up?
Blessings to everyone. I would say every fan has every right to be disgusted at this point. This don't make any sense. It's like, come on now. 52-14, and you have more cranes in this city and buildings that are coming up. You got homeless folks, but folks that are making over six figures can't do their job? Now, wait a minute. It's just like, you've got to be kidding. And I'm a supporter of the Titans. I've called, many times. I am a huge supporter of Miss Amy being a businesswoman, the decisions they make. But this does not make any sense. And there's no excuse. And it's like, come on, people. Do your job. You make too much money to 52-14.
Larissa, you're always so positive. This is, they've even got you, man.
I need to reset. I need to even get a little bit of, wait a minute now. They need a little act right. This don't make any sense. And I'm going to hang up and listen.
Okay, thank you, Larissa. By the way, I looked up the line for next week, and it's off the board right now. So we'll see over the course of the next couple hours if they put that back on. Larissa's always positive, y'all. This is where we are.
I mean, this game, it didn't leave a lot of positivity.
It was 14-14, Dice.
Yeah, but even at 28-14 on the 1 yard line, knowing you get the ball back the second half, to get nothing out of that, I think that's where you're like, because even if you get 3 and then you get the ball back, and maybe you do, maybe score, maybe you don't. But the fact that if you do get something out of that, there's a sense of hope. But when you can walk away with that with nothing, and then it's 28-14 at halftime in a game where technically 3 of those drives, well, all 4 of them, because the one was just a one-play drive, but 3 of those were inside of your territory. You're thinking, this really second half can go any other way. And we get the ball back. We're moving the ball. We can maybe do something. And then you go 3 and out, punt the ball, and, bro, that's it. And so it's just, I understand the frustration of fans. And I get that. But For sure. I mean, especially if that's your team. Everybody wants to be rooting for a winner. We all want to be relevant at the end of January and February. That's the whole point of competition.
Right.
I think
have hope as long as you can.
That's it.
And that's what the NFL generally provides you with the way that it's structured.
It's structured. It's balanced like that with free agency. But today, I think in the way that they lost was so unique. And you never see that sort of, rarely do you see returns. I mean, a guy has 5 drives inside of the 25, 30-yard line. 6 different guys scored touchdowns.
Listen, I've got a stat for you. You ready for this? So the Titans came in number 1 defense in the NFL, giving up 272.2 yards per game. You know how many they gave up today? 225. 50 yards less than what they give up as the number 1 defense in the NFL. That tells you everything. That tells you hidden yardage with the return yards.
Yeah.
That tells you that stat where they start drives inside the 30 all the time.
Yep.
225 yards they give up. So if I'd have told you, I go back to this, before the game, Titans only give up 225 yards on defense and Goff throws for 85. Titans win.
You think it's not 52-14 at the very least?
This is so bizarre.
What's
the
even
more
worse,
we dive into it.
Yeah, what's even worse is that, like, if you would have told me the Titans would have lost 52-14, oh yeah, like you say, hey, Titans are going to lose 52-14. Yeah, I can see that.
One of the best teams in the NFL.
Detroit's great. Detroit's offense, high flying. They're going to be scoring, all this stuff, getting all these yards and all this stuff, and then like you say, it happened in the weirdest way possible. And 5 drives starting inside the Tennessee Titans, 20. 5
Good
drives.
Lord.
Touchdown. It started at the Tennessee 7, the Tennessee 8, the Tennessee 1, or that was the last one, sorry. The Tennessee 23, Tennessee 25, Tennessee 12, Tennessee 22, and Tennessee 26.
Okay. Well,
5 drives,
there's
all
about
touchdowns.
100 of the 225. Right? 615-737-1045. This one was crazy. Jack, next up on Titans Talkback. Jack, what's up?
Hope you guys are doing well.
Yes, sir.
Got several comments, and I'll go through them very quickly.
Okay.
If I were Coach Callahan, the first thing I would say after the game is I want to apologize to all our fans for the terrible performance we as coaches and players displayed today. It was totally unacceptable. Also, after our special teams has been terrible, it's really not been good all year. After the game finished, while on the field, on the way to the locker room, I would have fired the special teams coach right then. I wouldn't even wait until I got to the locker room. I think
Zach agrees with you.
I texted.
I agree from a PR standpoint.
I texted Slay and Don and Zeph. At one point, I said, "Leave him on the tarmac," which I know is hardcore and all this stuff, but that's a joke that goes back to Lane Kiffin, who was fired at USC on the tarmac and didn't get on the plane.
Yeah. Well, if he doesn't fire him, they need to fire the coach. Next, I was a special forces soldier during the Vietnam War, so I know about performing and enduring with pain, okay?
Yeah.
Some of our key players get a little soreness. Example, Will Levis got a sore shoulder, and they don't play. Now, they're spoiled millionaires and are devoid of mental and physical toughness. These guys have got to get both mentally and physically tougher. And lastly, let me say this. A team in the NFL will never be a legitimate contender without a top-tier quarterback. You guys know that. Therefore, the Titans need to move heaven and earth to trade or draft a real stud at that position. We're never going to be Super Bowl possibility even if we don't get a top-flight quarterback. And right now, you know this, we don't have one on the roster. That's all I got to say.
Hey, Jack, thank you for your service, brother. I can't imagine what you went through, and I appreciate your phone call. Agree with certainly that last point. And I would argue, thank you, Jack, appreciate you. I would argue that Rand Carthon did give himself the flexibility in terms of draft capital to move up wherever they end up. Now, where would they be right now, Zach?
They're number 2 right now. Carolina is tied 7-7 with the Denver Broncos. If Carolina wins, they'll be number 1.
There you go. Well. But I wouldn't be surprised if the 2 moves were the last moves. Like, I mean, Diggs is in the last year of his deal, and he's only making $3 million. That's one guy who, by the way, took a horrible angle on a 70-yard run by Gibbs. Anyway, sorry.
About 13 people did, it felt like.
Hey, Kenneth Murray, the next time he sets the edge, I'll be very happy. Anyway, man, they missed a linebacker today, that's for sure. But don't you guys think that Rand is positioning himself in terms of draft capital to either take all those picks, because they drafted well last year, right?
Right.
Or position themselves to move up. Their draft picks last year, J.C. Latham, Tavondre Sweat, Cedric Gray, which we haven't seen, Jarvis Brownlee, it's been awesome. Jaquan Jackson, still waiting on him. James Williams, I think, will turn out to be a really good player, but that's going to take time, and they love Jalen Harrell. Would you be surprised if there wasn't another move?
No, not at all. And if you look, Rand was a part of the whole thing with Ed McCaffrey. I said Ed. That's his dad.
That is his dad. He was a great
Christian
player.
McCaffrey. I used to love watching his dad. I watched a lot of tape on his dad.
Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I watched a lot of tape on his dad and how he worked. But Christian McCaffrey, and he was part of that. What did they give up for him? Y'all remember?
Oh, it was a couple seconds, I believe.
Seconds.
Yeah, something like that.
And how they leveraged that in the next few drafts and the things of that nature. I think that's the example you're looking at. You're looking at him trying to leverage some things to potentially get a high-profile free agent that can impact, whether it be a tackle to Zach's liking, whether it be a quarterback. But here's the thing about quarterback, as we've seen. Who would you put in the elite category at this point? Right? There's probably 4.
I know that Dane Brugler, I mean, I normally respect Dane Brugler to the ends of the earth, but his Garrett Nussmeier's quarterback one take came at the worst time. But I think he's mediocre. But I think Shadur Sanders is clearly quarterback one. And I know people are going to hold Shadur Sanders' antics a couple weeks ago.
I mean, in the league right now.
Oh, in the league.
Who are your elite quarterbacks in the National Football League? So, because
it's Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, and this is not in order. Josh Allen, I'd put in there.
And would you put Burrow this year?
I would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put C.J. Stroud there. I mean, he kind of has been.
Why not?
Well, an elite quarterback.
He might be in that next group.
Yeah,
him and
CJ Stroud.
Okay, so where do you draw the line between Group 1 and Group 2?
But my point is, those quarterbacks, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So to get that guy to come to the 10th,
be the draft.
It has to be the draft.
It does.
And then it becomes maybe.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know. Nobody would have saw with my guy, whereas the game is on right now, what my guy would have done with the Commanders at Washington. Yeah. You would have thought he was going to. Nobody thought Stroud was going to do what he did as a rookie.
Yeah.
You just because there's a process. So and you went with Shadur, and we can go with Ward maybe.
Oh, man, if that Ward would be the roller coaster that you've seen with Will Levis right now.
My point is that doesn't necessarily fix all your problems because you just don't know what that element of the game is going to be.
I will say this. I love, just in terms of watching games, and you're not necessarily watching as a fan in terms of evaluating NFL stuff. Like, I kind of lean on Greg Cosell for that. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not a Quinn Ewers fan. Like, production, he says production gets in the way of, people evaluating in true detail in terms of watching the tape. But he's not a Ewers guy because of he was like, he never steps in solidly into a throw. He's always moving on his lower half when he doesn't need to. But anyway, I love watching Shadur Sanders. Mm-hmm. My man owns the pocket.
Oh, man.
And he watches, he looks all over the field. Mm-hmm. And it's not too fast for him and all these things. Like, he doesn't take off running like a lot of guys, like Jaden Daniels or somebody like that. But my man's not a one-read take-off guy. Like,
he is a perfect fit for a timing, chain-moving progression offense.
I totally agree with you. He's not a one-read, half the field, take off and run if the one read's not their guy. Mm-hmm.
Like, so many quarterbacks
that come out.
He's showing he's durable. Because he's taking a lot of shots.
Taking a lot of hits. So he'd be used to that here. So this bad offensive line play, he'd be very used to the bad offensive line play.
But even still with that, and as we project, right? You project he's going to be good.
Pat Shurmur's his offensive coordinator, former Andy Reid disciple, just another layer pro-style offense.
But my point is there's still no guarantees that he's going to be at that level, especially early on, right? So then take quarterback out of it. What other impacts can you have that's going to catapult you to the next level? Because
the same two positions we've been talking about, right tackle and edge, for like the last 5 years. It's what it feels like we've been talking about.
They're drafting a right tackle early again. I guarantee you they're drafting another offensive.
Because you got to protect him and you got to get after him.
But it's funny because, we were talking about this. Slay made a good point. He goes, how Detroit built, they were kind of a slow row build. And they did it through the offensive line. And if you think about it, that's what the Titans have done.
Well,
in terms of building that roster.
That first draft, they went offensive tackle in Penei Sewell, and the second pick was a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
So sides of the ball.
Sounds pretty familiar of what the Tennessee Titans did.
But think about it. If you look at if you take offensive line and quarterback out of the Lions, it's very comparable as far as running backs, receivers, right? It just center mine's different. I mean, He's an elite receiver.
5 straight games with a touchdown.
Yeah, he's an elite receiver. He should have been first. He was first team All Pro, all those things. But he should have been a Pro Bowler.
I can't talk about that draft, but because when they traded up and they made the announcement, I was driving with my wife. I'll never forget when the Tennessee Titans traded up. I go, they are drafting. I was like, they're doing it. They're drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're drafting him. And then they drafted Des Fitzpatrick, and I about ran off the road.
But even still, but aside from him, but you can make an argument that you got guys comparable, Ridley and him comparable. But aside from that, the Titans have guys that can do some things, right? So Goff, at one point or another, wasn't at this level.
Right.
Or else he wouldn't have been traded as he was.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But he has worked on his game, has gotten better, got a coach that has confidence in him, a coordinator has confidence in him. They worked around his skill sets, And now look at him. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League, playing one of the best. He's playing and to me, he's in that conversation for MVP for the year.
615-737-1045. Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home too. Your next play, visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. This is Titans Talkback. Appreciate you listening. Presented by Lee Company. Brent Doherty, Zach Lyons, Dr. Kevin Dyson. We've got you till 6:30. At that point, Sunday Night Football. Cowboys, 49ers. Westwood 1 coverage begins at 6:30. The Titans had won 6 in a row over the Detroit Lions.
Not anymore. Streak is broken.
It is. Lions are now 13-1 in their last 14 games when scoring first. They scored first with a David Montgomery touchdown run. Then Gibbs goes 70 yards. The Lions are now 8-0 when Gibbs and Montgomery both score. Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown has caught a touchdown pass in 5 straight games. Titans turnovers, 4 of them. Lions capitalized on all 4. You mentioned the short fields, and I thought your point was great. It looked like Detroit was working on their red zone offense in practice.
That's what it looked like to me. Did you see that metric, too, where they said that of all Lions opponents, the opponents had a loss the very next week?
0-5.
0-5.
Lions opponents are 0-5 the next week. Somebody had a bye, which was why they weren't
Cowboys.
6, yeah. By the way, the Patriots coming into town next weekend. Before today, the Titans were a 3-point favorite in that game. The line is down right now. We'll see what it ends up with after the 52-14 loss. And the Patriots 25-22 win over the Jets. Patriots were down 22-17 with a little bit less than 3 minutes to go. Jacoby Brissett leads the Patriots down the field for the game-winning touchdown. So we'll see how that plays itself out next week. Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit Lee Company online at leecompany.com. Let's go to Eric next up on Titans Talkback. Eric, what's up? How are you, man?
Hanging in, guys. I'll tell you what, guys. If we do wind up with the top draft pick, guys, I'm not saying it'll definitely happen, but I'm also saying be prepared. It would not shock me. Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders says, nope, we don't want to go to the Titans. And they pull the Eli Manning, so I would not be surprised if that happened. And, guys, also, Denver's going ahead of Carolina. They're now
wait, let's go back here. All right, so the Titans theoretically would be competing with the Carolina Panthers for that spot.
So
does Deion want him to go to Carolina?
Yeah, everybody says, even Deion kind of mentioned this on a podcast with Chad Ochocinco and Shannon Sharp, where he's like, starts talking about
that podcast
the dysfunction of the Carolina Panthers and how it's not beneficial for any quarterback to go to. We've seen Dan Orlovsky, Todd McShay both say that he's not going to go to Carolina. They're pretty sure. But he later in that same episode goes on to talk about DeAndre Hopkins. This is before DeAndre Hopkins got traded. And he's like, oh, well, who's a wide receiver you think you should get traded? And someone mentions D-Hop. He goes, yeah, that ball ain't coming out of Tennessee with Will Levis as the quarterback. And he starts disparaging Will Levis. And he stops himself. He goes, whoa, I got to remember where I'm at because my son could be going to Tennessee. So he's okay with Tennessee right now. Maybe that changes, but he's okay with Tennessee.
And that could be because his relationship with Carthon. Who knows? You know, I think relationships carry a lot of weight in just about any regard, in any profession, right? And so I don't know if you see something like that. I don't know. At that time, the Manning family, and I know I happened to be there with the Chargers organization. I was there when the trade happened and Phillip Rivers came. I was there. I was with the Chargers organization, and there was a negative kind of connotation about how they managed their organization and mismanaged, I should say. So I think the Manning family had that in their mind more so than I don't want my son going there. They just didn't want their son mismanaged because why wouldn't you want to play with one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game? Though Damian Thompson was there at that time, so they were more suited for him, ready-made for at that point than the Giants were at that point. So it became about the organization as a whole is why the Mannings chose that. Now, I don't know why Deion has earmarked these other ones and maybe
owners. I mean that's what he said. I mean, he talks about the dysfunction of the Panthers.
See,
I'm sure the Browns are viewed in the same light as well. So,
and that's why. And so it's nothing about the city, the team. It's that's my son.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with Charlotte or. Well, maybe it does have something to do with the city of Cleveland. I mean, I don't know. I've never been to Cleveland.
They got passionate fans, though.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. 615-737-1045. By the way, the Chiefs up on the Raiders 14-10 just before halftime. DeAndre Hopkins, 1 catch, 13 yards. Ernest Jones for the Seahawks. Bills at Seahawks. Bills lead 14-3 at halftime. Ernest Jones leads the Seahawks with 6 tackles in the first half.
Wow.
615-737-1045. Mike, next up on Titans Talkback. Mike, what's up?
Hey there. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
My question for you guys is, who all in an organization purposefully tanks to get a draft pick? You know the GM has to because they got to trade away players in exchange for draft picks. But who else in an organization purposefully makes a conscious effort to lose on Sundays?
Oh, nobody.
Yeah, this team's not trying to lose. This is not an on-purpose thing.
No. Here's what, and that's an interesting point, Mike, and I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you very much. Dice, you can put yourself in position in some ways, roster-wise, and who plays, and things like that. But you're never like, hey, man, let's go out there and lose this one for the Gipper. I mean, it's not happening, ever.
And it's too competitive. It's too competitive. Too much money at stake. That's not happening.
Well, Arden Key even said after the game is like, what do you tell people to get them motivated or keep them motivated in this kind of situation? He goes, what you put on tape is your resume.
There you go.
I mean, that's straight from Arden Key right there in the lock. Listen, you look at Brian Callahan at the press conference today. These last few press conferences, he's been very, I would say, downtrodden.
Oh, man. He looked like it on the sideline.
Today, he was filled with rage. Like he had crazy eyes, in this press conference after the fact. So there is no on purpose tanking. Just sometimes you can't stop from losing. And right now, it's just you can't stop.
Let me expand on that. So when you start losing and you start pressing as a player, a couple things happen. One, you try to overextend yourself. You start trying to make phantom plays, like I gotta hurry up and do this. And then what happens? You create running gaps. You drop the ball. You misread. You overstep. You start making mistakes, thinking I gotta overcompensate to make up plays. That's one thing that happens. The other part of that is you start losing trust in one another, and you start barking at one another, and then that chemistry dies down. We did that in 2001. Remember, there was documented. We had guys arguing on the sideline over the seat. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that, right? And we weren't very good that year.
I forgot about that.
Right. So and so my point in saying that is chemistry goes a long way, and finding that winning chemistry and demeanor, that carries a lot of weight. And we saw 2 different franchises on either end of that spectrum. You saw a franchise that believes and is totally bought into an organization, to a head coach, and it's a cultural thing. They believe. Right now, the Titans are still trying to establish that, and they don't have that winning, quote-unquote, culture or belief as an organization. I think guys are playing hard. I think people like Big Jeff are trying to make plays that are creating other plays, putting other guys in bad position, putting the linebackers in bad spots.
Trying to do too much.
Trying to do too much. I think the offensive line the same way. There was a sack given up on golf. Where I forget tight end it was. He fans. I don't know miscommunication. I don't know what the communication was. I'm thinking. Right? I'm thinking the tackle must have made a call or didn't make a call, or he made a call and the tackle didn't get it because the tackle went down when the guy was already on him. He fans out where somebody is miscommunicated. So typically in that situation is somebody makes a fan call, and usually it's a tackle, meaning I'm coming out. I got him. That means you fan out to the next guy. Well, I don't know, because it looked like the tight end was like, I'm going to this guy. You got him. When the tackle went down and he went out, just left that gap wide open. So it's just a miscommunication. Again, it wasn't like guys are tanking it. It was just somebody wants to make a play so bad that they just make mistakes. And that's not giving anybody a crutch. I'm not saying that makes it better. I'm just saying nobody in competitive sports, professional sports, I don't care what sport it is, goes out there and says, I want to lose today.
Right. And like you said, like some of the moves that can be made, you're blowing up, you're rebuilding, right? You're blowing it up. And that doesn't necessarily mean that your players and your coaches are trying to tank. Right. It means as a GM or an owner, you are trying to get the most assets because you know what you got ain't working.
Right.
So you're going to try and get the most assets, because we've seen teams all the time that look like they are purposely tanking, and then they go out and win a game because some kind of big change happened, right? Like, I mean, look at Calvin Ridley today. He's going crazy. I guess he didn't get the memo that they were tanking, or maybe that's why he fumbled. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think you brought up a good point, and I don't think fans really understand this, and I really didn't until I started talking to Blaine, and then hearing Brian Callahan talk, is that teams have to learn how to win. Yeah. And this team is relatively all new almost. I mean, like you got new coordinators, you have new head coaches, you have lots of new players, you have an offensive line that's never played with each other, for multiple games side by side. All this is new, so you have to learn how to win. And the previous players have just come off of 2 losing dreadful seasons, and now they're in another losing dreadful season. So those players have to relearn how to win. These other players have to learn to win. And it's not just learning to win, it's learning to win together.
Yeah. And I'll even argue, but how many one possession games the year they were number 1 seed in the NFL, how many one possession games, one score games did they win that year?
Right, you have to win one possession game. I mean, like, what is it? Like 65% of the NFL games go down to one possession,
exactly,
or one score game.
And you win more of those than you don't. You're usually one of the elites.
615-737-1045. You want Insight Talkback presented by Lee Company. Lee Company. All you need, visit Lee Company online at leecompany.com.
Let's be real.
Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit Lee Company online at leecompany.com. 615-737-1045. You got Brent, Zach, and Dr. Kevin Dyson. Mike next up on Titans Talkback. Mike, what up?
Hello?
Yo, Mike, what's up?
Oh, yeah. No, very good. And listen, I've been listening to you guys all day. I'm going to put a different perspective on this.
Okay.
Why don't we go out and hire Bill Belichick to come in here and turn this thing around? Amy Adams is not going to step in and go down to the sidelines like Jerry Jones, and she won't do a general manager type thing like Jerry Jones. We have a disaster right now. We're looking at about a 5 to 7 year rebuild. Bring in Bill Belichick and let this thing rebuild over a 3 to 5 year, and we might actually have a competitive team that opens up our new stadium.
Can I push back a little bit on the Bill Belichick thing? How much success did he have after Brady left? None.
None, but he hasn't been anywhere really since Brady left.
Right, I know. But my question is, how much of that is Brady? Like, I know that Bill Belichick is a great defensive mind and all these things.
It's not going to be Will Levis. It won't be Will Levis. But what I'm saying is bring in a winning head coach that can say, Amy, I can bring in people, a general manager, and I can do things here in Tennessee when your new stadium opens, and we'll at least be competitive.
Okay.
I think he had only
Mike.
one,
I appreciate it. I disagree with that.
One winning season after Brady left, right?
I got a couple of ways you can take this.
Turn your mic on. There you go.
That's me. I'm getting mad at him, but that's me being frustrated.
That's why you got to be
not at Jackson.
That's why you got to be
It's just like I just literally happened to do this last time, and I blamed it on me, and it's me again. And I'm just like, it's like, what am I doing?
The buds are right
Here's
next
a
to your
couple of
elbow.
things about this.
Yeah.
He says, well, Bill Belichick could bring in a general manager. Well, Bill Belichick was a general manager, and that's what led to the Patriots sucking, was because Bill Belichick was not a good GM. Now, if you want to bring Bill Belichick in as like a president of football operations or whatever you want to, like CEO of football, whatever. Yeah, whatever. I don't care. If you want to do that, do that. But I mean, you don't want him to be GM. You don't want him to be head coach because you don't have a quarter. You don't want him picking the next quarterback. Right. I'm just going to go out there and say, you don't want him picking the next quarter. Secondly, he's got I bet right now, I don't know if Bill Belichick wants to come back. He is having the time of his freaking life on all these podcasts and all this thing, and he's getting paid a lot of money for all of his appearances.
The thing he does with Peyton before the ESPN Bet Live on Sunday mornings is so good.
Let me tell you something.
Him and Saban are good.
His really stuff good. With Michael Lombardi and Matt Patricia every week, the Coach Podcast, the Coach Show, or whatever it's called. It is phenomenal insight every week. That dude's having the time of his life. I would not want to come back to the daily grind of a head coach, especially when he's got a beautiful girlfriend as he does right now. And he lives here in Tennessee anyway. So, I mean, like, he's got a farm. He's living life. Yeah. I wouldn't come back to
if he didn't have all the titles, like that was eluding him, it was the titles, maybe. But he's
got that one winning percentage, right? Like the best winning percentage or the most victories or whatever it is. He's still chasing that one thing. Does that really matter anymore?
Yeah. Also, I want to push back on the 5 to 7 years away thing. All right. In today's NFL, you can flip it in one season. I mean, look at what the Texans did. They went from 3 wins to 10 wins in one season because they drafted the right quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And they got the right combination, as we've been talking about.
They already had the offensive line set.
Yeah.
So, honestly, that's where the Titans are going. So, if you get through one more draft class, I would be willing to bet that they're going to spend first or second round pick on right tackle. Probably second round because they're probably going to push up to get a QB. I don't know.
Or they get the best left tackle in the game and move my guy back over to the right side, which he was naturally.
Either way.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Either way, you've built the offensive line and then you're a quarterback away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not 5 to 7 years.
No, I don't think so.
It could be, but it doesn't have to be.
I mean, and then we tend to forget.
Also, Brian Callahan is 7 games into his coaching career. And as you pointed out today,
that's what I was about to say. We're only 7 games into a new regime.
As you pointed out earlier, they actually looked like a real NFL offense today. Like, he got into a rhythm in calling plays. Like, there's all kinds of other things that had. They turned it over 4 times and 303 return yards.
I will say this. Brian Callahan is not calling plays that he intends interceptions to be thrown.
No, nobody does.
But they got in a rhythm and we're moving the football.
I was just about to say that. We're talking about somebody who's 7 games into a regime. And I even put Rand in that, too.
And he's getting better every week.
And I put Rand in that same kind of conversation. This is why I say don't blow it up right now as far as firing people, because we're still on the evaluation side. And if you want to compare them to who they just played and the length of time it has taken, Campbell and the GM, I'm not sure the GM's
Brad Holmes.
Thank you, Brad Holmes.
Who worked with Rand Carthon with the Rams, by the way, several years.
And the way they have built it, if that is the blueprint, you're closer than you think. You're closer than being further away, meaning there's a plan in place. You just got to see it to fruition.
Yeah, see, the difference is when, Dan Campbell and them took over that roster. They already had a really good center in Frank Ragnow.
Yeah.
They already had Taylor Decker at left tackle, so they drafted Penei Sewell to put at right tackle, and boom, you have your 3 most important spots at your offensive line. They had Jonah Jackson there as well, who went on to get paid over at the Rams. They had a pretty good offensive line, but you're talking about they've drafted 29 players from 2021 to 2024, 29 players. 24 of them are either starters or contributors on this team, on the final 53.
That's big. That's huge.
The Tennessee Titans from 2020 to 2021, 2022, Dylan Radins is your best draft pick from that time.
I will say this, though. That's apples and oranges just because that wasn't all Rand.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What the problem is that you have 3 draft classes in a row. Now, Rand Carthon and company, Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan are trying to clean up the mess of the previous regime, and it takes time.
If we go with Rand's first draft, Sweat. I'm trying to think who else.
J.C. Latham,
Sweat. Who was else?
Jarvis Brownlee Jr. He had a bad day today on that one play, but then he's been good.
Jarvis Brownlee had a hell of a tackle though too. He came off his guy.
They only had so many draft picks, right? Jalen Harrell's had another pressure today,
but those guys so far are contributors.
Here's another thing too. Like I know that they lose Ernest Jones, linebacker, right? Okay,
yeah.
He's got 8 tackles so far. Leads the Seahawks. But my man was a gangster with that move.
Yeah.
So in the totality of that move, you give a 5th round 2026 pick and you get a player and a 4th and a 6th.
Yeah.
For a 2026 5th in terms of the whole deal.
Yeah.
That's a gangster move.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And we'll see what Cedric Gray is, right? They plan to activate him. We'll see what Cedric Gray is. We'll see Jerome Baker, back because Jerome Baker didn't play today. That could have been a big issue for this defense.
But do they deal Harold Landry, who had 1 tackle today and didn't?
Well, he just signed that multi-year deal.
I think it's Arden Key. Like if there's a guy that right now, the last 2 weeks, he's hot. So that's always the guy they usually trade for. He also has a really cheap contract for the other team to take over. It's less than an $8 million cap hit for the acquiring team next year.
Yeah.
And this year it'd be even less. And so it's a really inexpensive contract for the other team to get out of. It's essentially 1 year. It's a 1 year for the Titans, essentially 1 year for them. But even if they choose to keep him, it's still a cheap third year.
Exactly.
So to me, Arden Key is the guy. Like if you're the Lions, do you really want Harold Landry and the contract and the money? Or do you want Arden Key because you're going to have Aiden Hutchinson, then maybe you got Aiden Hutchinson plus Arden Key next year.
Yeah. And the thing with Landry is we got to look philosophy change too, right? He was under that variable regime and his philosophy, it's a shift.
He's got 2 years after this one.
Yeah.
Harold Landry.
Yeah.
And that's a big cap hit if you let him go. So
yeah, I think Harold Landry would obviously net you more. Jeffrey Simmons would obviously net you more.
You can't let either.
But I think that really Arden Key's the secret guy right there that maybe you could get some. I still think that Nick Folk's a possibility as well because, a lot of teams have kicker woes. Maybe you trade Nick Folk for a 6th or a 7th and, whatever. It's not exciting stuff, but you're looking at trying to get 5ths and 4ths and 3rds. You're not looking. You really want another 1st, but you're probably not going to get another 1st.
Yeah, unless you give up your draft.
Right. And we know people are calling around on Jeffrey Simmons. I think it was reported Minnesota, the Lions, and someone else. I believe the Jets may have. I'd have to go back and find
can you imagine that guy next to Quinnen Williams? Jeez.
Yeah, but I think that there are people out there that are inquiring.
There's no way.
Those phones will be a little bit hotter this week because guess what? they'll be ringing a little bit louder because you added another loss.
Right, but I would build around him and T. Swift. That's got a chance to be something special right there.
I mean, seriously, unless you're going to just give me anything I asked for, and I'm talking on some high
when they say they're
platinum.
not listening, that's GM speak, whoever, to Diana Rossini or the guy over at NFL.com that he also who talked to. That is, we're not listening to your lame ass offers.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You're trying to steal Jeffrey Simmons. We're not going to give Jeffrey Simmons away.
By the way, somebody pointed out this is Rand's second in all caps draft, not his first. It's his first where he had control of the draft.
Because he got here late last draft.
Trust us on that one.
Yeah, he got here late last year in the spring in that draft.
Braves all the time.
Yeah, he was in the room, but he may have some input, but it wasn't.
Oh, he would have input.
This was absolutely his.
Yep, 615-737-1045. Let's go to Kent next up on Titans Talkback. Kent, what's up?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
So my question is there kind of an optimal world here where we see enough from Levis to say, all right, we think we can get another year out of him. Let's let this offensive scheming come down. Let's let it rest with him. Let's see if everything can settle and click enough to where we say, all right, let's keep him for another year. Let's kind of try to inject some positivity in this, but also end up, maybe with some good draft capital, early draft picks, fill some holes that we can avoid some of these QBs that don't seem to be, the cat's pajamas.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people are saying this is a bad draft class for quarterbacks. I'm telling you, having done this as long as I have, when we get toward draft period, all of these people are going to start blowing up, this guy or that guy or this guy and that guy. I mean, it just happens every year. So the question always is this a good draft class for this draft class, but compared to like last year or the year before? I get that everyone's saying that this is a tough quarterback draft class, and then you've got Arch Manning and Nico and all those guys coming down the pike a little bit later.
But you don't know when they're coming because the NIL. Because Nico is not having that great of a year, right? Like maybe if he only takes a minimal leap next year, maybe he waits another year.
Well, he can make so much money staying in college ball.
I mean, that's just going to be how it's going to be for a little bit.
So, I just look, they're going to decide on Levis, and they're going to decide, and they're going to move on. And the reality of the situation is it's not going to matter what we think about these quarterbacks that are coming out this year. It's whether they think that they can identify a guy they think belongs in their system and that they can plug and play. And then Levis is still in his rookie contract. My guess is he would be back as a backup in that scenario. I don't know.
Probably traded. I mean, we saw Kenny Pickett.
Can you trade him?
Yeah. Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder. He's in the third year. He'll be going into the third year of a 4-year contract. I mean, Kenny Pickett got traded. Listen, I'll say this.
That's true.
That's a good point.
First up, people are going to trade for backup quarterbacks. We've seen Malik Willis got traded to Green Bay recently, right?
That's true.
Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, and Desmond Ridder.
Today, by the way.
Desmond Ridder got traded again. You see trades happen all the time.
That's a good point. Good point. 615-737-1045. We've got another hour and a half with you. Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Back to the phones. There are 2 lines open if you want in. 615-737-1045. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play, visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. Brent Doherty, Zach Lyons, Dr. Kevin Dyson with you until 6:30. Walking you up to Sunday Night Football. Westwood One coverage of Cowboys 49ers begins at 6:30. It's time for the Kroger Sacks for Cash. Today, the Titans had 4 sacks, courtesy of several different players. One of the players was the aforementioned and discussed Arden Key with 2. Big Jeffrey Simmons had a sack and 2 tackles for a loss. Roger McCreary also had a sack and 2 tackles for a loss for the season. Kroger's donation to Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee now stands at $2,100. Every time the Titans sack the opposing team's quarterback, Kroger donates $100 to Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee. It includes the preseason through its Zero Hunger, Zero Waste plan. Kroger is committed to ending hunger in our communities. The Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home as well. Your next play, visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. 615-737-1045. Mentioned that, Arden Key, do you think he knows he's on the trade block, so he knew he had to have a big day today? Because he came out,
I don't know, maybe.
of a cannon on that first play.
It was insane. It's been like that for like the last 2 or 3 games, too. Like, he hasn't been getting the sacks, but he's been getting there and making plays. Obviously, everybody knows it's a business, I would assume, but I don't know. He specifically said today, your resume's out on your tape. So I think he knows that maybe I would say that, got to put some stuff on tape. Maybe someone will save me. Like, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think there's people. I think he could benefit to be on a team that is winning because that also has an offense that allows him to maybe be free rush a little bit more.
More situational, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I asked earlier in the show how many, maybe off air, but it just seemed like he had more because he's been close, I guess. It just felt like he's been around the ball.
He's been real close on a lot.
6 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss. Jeffrey Simmons, 4 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for a loss. And Roger McCreary, 3 tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for a loss. There's another good draft pick from a couple of years ago.
We'll say that I forgot about McCreary. McCreary, Radens are probably the 2 best out of those 3 draft classes. Yeah.
I think Radens is holding up. I think if you get one more tackle in this draft, then maybe you're kind of set there.
You got to re-sign Radens, though.
Got to re-sign Radens. Also, like, Cushenberry hasn't been what I thought he would be.
Yeah.
To be honest. But there's a lot going on up there. And I know initially from talking to former players that they were so late getting out of the huddle that it was tough for Cushenberry to even make line calls and to point out the middle linebacker and things like that. I think they've gotten better about that lately, but there's so many things.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on because there was a play today where they call it in, and then like 4 players came back and were like, "What's the play again?" That's not great. I don't know if it's just because it was really loud in there. Maybe that's what it was, but that's very odd. A lot of people deemed the first timeout by Mason Rudolph, but he got to the line with a lot of time left, and he called the timeout with 5 seconds left because he didn't like what he saw from the defense. Yeah. So I mean, that's a understandable, situation to call a timeout in.
Lions score 35 points in the first half today. That is the most points they have scored in a half since October 18th, 1970.
Well, they didn't have to go far to go.
That's definitely true. NWI with another touchdown. That's 3, and that's a touchdown in 3 consecutive games. Also had a 34-yard reception.
All the conversation with the Ridley and D-Hop and everybody who's kind of the forgotten guy, and he's still stable and reliable and continues to make plays for the organization. He's just old, reliable. He's not going to be that perennial Pro Bowler or things like that, but he's a reliable backup.
As a former receiver, the trade of DeAndre Hopkins, did that clean things up positionally out there and allow Calvin Ridley to be the number 1 guy and be the focus? I don't know. Or was that just the game plan?
Blaine said would happen. He said that's what, Blaine from his perspective.
Yeah, I think so in that regard. I think that helps eliminate who's the guy, right? The go-to guy, because I think that's been part of that discussion specifically for Ridley. I think what it also does, as you were talking about earlier, Zach, is it's a collection of things to come. I'm collecting these picks. Yeah. Whatever that pick equates to, whether it equates to a draft pick or more draft picks, we don't know yet. And I think that is where it also, while he still has value in him. And the Chiefs had a definite need for a veteran quality ball catcher. And the Titans have a need for which that was one of their deepest positions, right? Yeah. They definitely have a need to grow the roster in different capacities, whether it be offensive line, pass rusher, secondary help, whatever it may be. That was the ultimate move for them to be able to collect. Because you still don't know. I mean, Trey Lance is still an unknown commodity even in his third, fourth year. Is it 4? Is it 3?
I mean, I wouldn't agree that he's an unknown commodity. I think it's...
Well, because he hasn't had the production, I guess. You know what I'm saying? And he's still on the roster.
And you listen, you can trade players that are on IR now. So I'm not saying that anybody would trade for Treylon Burks, but he's been mentioned a lot.
Well, I thought that was going to be the one. That's what I thought they would trade.
You get 2026 7th for Treylon Burks. Bye.
That was who I thought they were going to trade throughout training camp. That's when I thought they would move.
Yeah. And he was being talked about at that point. Calvin
and
Ridley was
Blaine
talking
is
about
convinced, and now I'm with him. Blaine is convinced that all that fluff about Treylon Burks was to try to get him traded.
Interesting. This is such an odd year, man. Thinking back to training camp and all that stuff, I don't think I said that they would be a playoff team. I did say that I took them 6.5 over.
Yeah.
In terms of wins. But the conundrum, and this is what we said on our show, was in terms of starters, at that point, it looked like they were better than what people thought they were. Mm-hmm. But, man, I thought Will Levis would be better.
Yeah.
I thought the offensive line would gel faster.
Yep.
And I was wrong on both of those things.
Oh, and that's the thing, right? I mean, you hear all the offseason talk, but it all hinged around Will Levis being good. We're going to be a competitive team because we got a good young quarterback.
Exactly.
And he's going to take the next leap. And that's what you're supposed to believe. You're not supposed to come out and say, I'm sure that everything was said about Bryce Young in Carolina, I bet the same way. Oh, man, he's looking really good in camp. He's making his reads. He looks like he's taking the leap. He looks much more comfortable. The issue is that all those words are good, but the actions were right there, right? Inconsistent from practice to practice was that offense the entire time. Will Levis was inconsistent, and that was the thing. And I don't think anybody in the media, if they did in this local media, I missed them. I don't think anybody picked them to go to the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe someone, I know Blaine said he had them going 8 wins, 9 wins, maybe they're in the playoffs. Yep. And that's probably what I would have been on. I think I was about an 8-win team.
Mm-hmm. I said I thought they would have hope toward the end of the season.
Yeah, and that's the
Where
thing.
Do you feel now? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there's
not there.
Hope is dead.
We're talking about draft picks.
But
7 games in.
I always pictured the AFC just being really tough anyway. Yeah. It was just going to be a really tough conference. But I didn't expect the team to look like this. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing is that the team looks like this, you could say, for the first part of the year was because the quarterback clearly did not take the leap everybody expected. Even if he was just an average NFL quarterback, they would have won some games.
Well, I thought, to your point, Zach, I thought it would be a chance for the playoffs. And here's why. I didn't think this division was that strong. Yeah. I thought there was a lot of unknown at the quarterback position except for Stroud. Lawrence had his doubters from last year, his struggles, his up and down, and then you talk about Richards and of course Levis and how either of them progressed from year 1 to year 2, who was better. And so with the moves going into this year, what Rand had made seemingly on paper, you gave them a shot. And I think the only the person that you compare them to was Houston, because that is the benchmark right now in the division is Houston. And you thought, okay, on defense, they got sweat and they did some things in the secondary. You're like, okay, they have made moves to beat the Texans. And now it becomes how well does our quarterback play, even with the additions on offense. Well, then to your point, the quarterback was struggling on top of everything else. That just made it more of a stronghold for Houston. I think the other teams are just, same in the same boat, really.
Yeah.
They're the three of them are going to beat each other. I think is what it comes down to.
615-737-1045. Joe next up. Joe, what's up?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call.
Hey Joe.
I just had a question. As far as when do you give up on Larry? And then you got to ask yourself, has he really had a fair shot at the position? Because you got to remember, the Titans failed to fix that right tackle position. They just did. They thought they had it with MPF. They thought they had it with Radent, and it just didn't pan out. And then another thing, you can clearly see there's just a lack of discipline on this team too. So then you got to ask yourself, well, is it quarterback play? Is it coaching? What is it? That's my take. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. 615-737-1045. I also didn't think that Callahan would struggle as a play caller this much.
But I do think he made strides. Look, there's a lot to be made about the quarterback situation. Quarterback play around the league is just bad right now. I mean, that makes no excuses for what you see here, but it is a league-wide issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a defensive thing, much less than it is for me being the league, a league thing where Baker Mayfield leads the league in interceptions. Patrick Mahomes has thrown interceptions in every game this year, right?
Exactly.
Like all these situations, it's a defense thing for me for the most part. Now there are boneheaded plays, right? Boneheaded plays are not a coaching issue. Boneheaded unforced errors are player issues. But today, to speak to Callahan, I thought Callahan would not struggle as much as he has. But I do think as a terms of handling play calling duties while being head coach, I thought that today was his best day. We can bicker and complain as a collective about the four plays at the goal line, which I think we all agree here at least.
Yeah, he
that was the wrong move
from that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I thought that the entire play calling and the scheme all season has worked. And there's a lot of issues with the quarterbacks. And sometimes when your quarterback play is bad or your right tackle play is bad or this and that, it's hard to get the plays and the rhythm going. But the scheme is working. So it's hard for me to blame the interceptions on the coach or coaching.
Oh, no question.
It's to me, it's the defense is the main reason. Then it's the players.
And Dice, that's how you started the show. That despite a 52-14 loss, it sounds kind of crazy, but they actually were in a flow offensively today, and they made strides today offensively.
Well, I think
303 return yards will get you.
The pass that Callahan gets this year is inconsistency of his young quarterback, the inconsistency of the offensive line. His tight ends have been inconsistent. We hadn't really even exposed that. I mean, Cheek had a bonehead play again today. And even the receivers, for the most part, have had drop balls and things of that nature.
And Josh Wiley's been a terrible blocker, by the way.
Yeah, so it's hard, and I'm being devil's advocate for Callahan right now. Having called plays, not at the pro level, but having called plays, it's hard to find a rhythm or be consistent in play caller if something is leaking. And if it's your right tackle, if it's your left guard, if it's your center, if it's drop passes, if it's
and it's something
back,
new every week too. Yeah. Like you plug one hole, then you're going to have to get your big toe in the other hole, and you're just trying to plug all these holes every week.
So it's hard.
Like Clark Griswold on the Notre Dame.
You're right.
Yeah. It's hard for a play caller to me. It's hard to judge a play caller when you're constantly plugging holes. And so I thought this first half was a good representation of the potential of him as a play caller, the variety, the depth. He went vertical, he went shallow, he went mid-range game. Running game was explosive. There was a lot of variability in his play calling that I suppose is what he intends on doing if he has a consistent play at quarterback. The offensive line is doing it. Because truth be told, we're not even giving them the offensive line their flowers. They played well.
They did.
They had a couple of plays. Like there was one play called back. One was the obvious hold, but the one they ended up taking, I'm like, they called that a hold? And all the holds in all the football.
that Peter Skronsky hold on the screen, I think that's
ridiculous. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. Like, of all the holds in the field, they called that one.
And even my guy, who's my guy at right tackle?
Leroy or Jonajuku?
Leroy, yeah. That boy good and terrible. Even on a 17-yard Tony Pollard run, my man was at the second level running people over.
Come on, man.
Oh, he was throwing people to the ground on the run plays.
That's what I'm saying. The line was playing well today.
He was only under pressure 23.8% of the time, and he had 42 dropbacks today. And so only on 10 of those 42 did he see pressure, according to PFF.
Yeah.
Initial game reaction. I think that number will go up. Okay. I think you'll probably see that go up to like maybe 12 or 13 dropbacks.
Yeah.
But initially, 10 out of 42.
That's what I say. We got to give them flowers and flowers to do. It's just everything has been so bad up to this point that it's hard too. But back to that point, though, Callahan, we haven't been able to see his ability fully because of the inconsistency at so many things.
Well, you scheme up a play or you build your entire offense a week thinking, okay, well, we got Leroy Watson. He's starting for us. Here's his limitations. So we're going to put some help over on his side. We're going to do this, or we're going to call these plays. And then when Peter Skoronski's getting pushed back, or, Dylan Radin's not doing his job, or when Calvin Ridley is dropping a ball, or when really the first interception, Mason Rudolph is holding on to that ball way too long. You can get up to like 5 seconds almost from when the ball snapped and he gets throws that ball leaves his hand.
Yeah.
Like that's on him. Yeah. Leroy Watson was held his guy for about 4.5 seconds. That's a lot.
That's on him. And then this is the other stuff that's hidden that we don't know, we're not privy to.
Yeah.
Is when somebody has a mental error. They run the wrong route. They don't get their depth, or they go too deep, or they miss an assignment, and then it causes something else to break down. The quarterback might be holding the ball because he's expecting a guy to break, and he's not even he got off the jam. There's different aspects of that play calling. But again, as I said before, sometimes football player has to be a football player. Yeah, you sometimes, I was supposed to be at 15. I got to cut this off at 10, 11, or 12 to make a play. So it's still coming. It's still a work in progress. Today, I was encouraged, especially considering circumstances in that first half in particular, of the variety of the play calling and just the way they were able to convert things and make plays. Now, they didn't convert any third downs, but the way they were moving the football, it didn't need to.
That's special teams, though. Oof. Yeah, that was really...
Yeah. 303 return yards allowed, 4 turnovers will cost you every time. 615-737-1045. That is the number if you want in. Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit Lee Company online at leecompany.com. It is Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. Brent Doherty, Zach Lyons, Dr. Kevin Dyson with you until 6:30. Sunday night football coverage from Westwood One of Cowboys at 49ers. 49ers a 5.5-point favorite in that game. Begins at 6:30. Lee Company, all you need. Visit Lee Company online at leecompany.com. We've tried to identify some positives, and we will continue to do so. There have been a few, Dice. Higginbotham can be your business teammate by helping manage your risks, limit your liability, put a plan of action in place, and control your costs. Insurance plans for your company and your assets. It's all online at higginbotham.com. The Higginbotham right call of the game. I'm going to go with Mason Rudolph's very unexpected 11-yard touchdown run. I did not have that on the bingo card. But that was a well-designed play. He could have thrown a touchdown pass to Tony Wiley. Let me get your mic.
I'm surprised he didn't throw it,
To get the touchdown pass?
Yeah.
Complete busting coverage. Yeah. You could see them arguing on the sideline about who should have been where and all these things. But Mason Rudolph with the move on the edge and then kind of glides into the end zone.
Looking like Prime Vic out there.
He said Prime Vic. That's not even close.
And trying to give some positivity.
Yes, that is the Higginbotham right call of the game. Mason Rudolph.
Now, I'm going to tell you, I was with Carolina for a year, too, and I had to see that man twice a year.
Ooh.
And you talk about mood shift and defensive coaches and players when you had to prepare for that man versus any other quarterback in the game. It was like unlike anything I've seen because Michael Vick was special. I can imagine coordinators and defenses feel the same way about Vick as they do about Jackson now.
Yeah,
preparing for that.
Blaine Bishop's got two stories about Mike Vick. One, he got him. He got him. The first time he thought he had him. He was coming free. Yeah. Backside, if I remember correctly, on Vic. And Vic just whoop, and Blaine got air. Next thing you know, he's down the field 40 yards.
I got to see a front row, and it's nothing like it. I've never seen Lamar Jackson. I've seen him play here, but I was on the sidelines watching. Yeah. It's different, but
it is different.
I had never seen nothing like that. He literally was like a kid. Like he was like a veteran kid playing against high school kids, and I'm watching pros. It was just remarkable.
Blaine said he kind of slowed up the next time, and he got him. He sacked him.
Yeah, you get him every now and then, but you better get him that time because that dude was special. And he had a cannon. People don't even talk about his. He had a cannon.
He was awesome to watch.
Man.
I think he's like one of them. Him and LaDainian Tomlinson were probably the most exciting offensive skill players to watch.
And I'm going to tell you this. Mike Vick played in an era of pro-style offense. He played in the offense now with his zone schemes, the RPOs and stuff like that.
He'd be cooking.
He'd be crazy. And I'm going to say, I did have opportunity. I was in Chargers one year as well, and I saw that man, LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah.
And all due respect to my man Eddie, that dude was different.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen Genty yet for Boise State?
Yes.
Average of 208 yards per game.
Yeah. If he does win the Heisman, it's a travesty.
Well, now he's down the list because he had 134 in this last game against UNLV.
He had 134 yards and he was 3.9 per clip per attempt, and they moved him all the way.
But he had the game-winning touchdown, and I mean,
unbelievable.
Anyway, and he hurt his arm in the beginning of the game and played through it. All those things. But I was trying to think when I was watching him against UNLV who he reminds me of, and when you guys said LaDainian Tomlinson, that's who he reminds me of.
Oh yeah.
He's 5'9".
Yeah.
But you can't tackle. He breaks tackles.
Yes.
He makes you miss in the phone booth.
Yep. Yeah.
He's crazy good.
It's almost like running backs this day have to rush for 3,500 yards to even be considered for the Heisman.
I mean, he's obviously not now, but he was looking pretty close that he could get to 3,000.
I mean, he's going to clip that 2,000 mark.
Yeah,
think about it.
He's chasing Barry Sanders. Yeah.
There's a few guys that actually clipped it that won it, but then there was a year when there was a guy that got 2,000 and didn't win it. I forgot what year that was.
Troy Edwards?
Troy Edwards.
Maybe?
Not Troy Edwards. Troy from Iowa State.
Yeah, that's him, right?
Yeah, it's not Edwards, though.
It's not?
Well, remember, D'Angelo Williams had 1,948 yards and 1,964 yards in back-to-back seasons. And then he also put on he had 2,158 scrimmage yards and 2,042 scrimmage yards. And he didn't even he played at Memphis, but he didn't even sniff that.
I have a Heisman vote, so that's why I'm trying to watch all of these guys. And then I watch Travis Hunter, and you watch what that dude does. Like, I know he's getting all kinds of attention, but he doesn't get the attention that he deserves.
No, he's in that conversation, obviously, and he reminds me
Dylan Gabriel
of Charles Woodson, and it's a great storyline, too. What two-way player, he's effective on both sides.
He doesn't come off the field at all. No. Like, it's crazy.
And he plays a high level the whole game. He don't even look tired.
It's insane. I mean, like, Travis Hunter, have to say, if for whatever reason the Panthers get the number 1 overall pick and they take Shedeur Sanders and you're stuck looking at Travis Hunter or the rest of these quarterbacks, I'm taking Travis Hunter.
615-737-1045. It's going to be interesting. Will someone allow him to play cornerback and wide receiver in the league, or is he going to have to choose? Because if he chooses, it's going to be wide receiver because that's where the money is, right?
Remember Adoree Jackson, there was that conversation of him being a two-way player.
And he did have some offensive snaps.
He had some offensive snaps.
But I'm talking about, like, let this dude play.
I'd play him at wide receiver.
Well, and remember Champ Bailey, there was conversation with him.
Yeah.
I think the physicality of the game and the value and the money invested, he'll do some. I think I see him more as a corner that plays receiver.
You see him I see him as the other way around.
You see him receiver that plays corner. I see him because
at least in the NFL, I think
his route run is not. Again,
I trust you on that one.
His route running is not as crisp. He's more of a rounder.
He looks like an athlete playing high school football, running around with a bunch of dudes that can't cover him.
Can't cover him.
Yeah,
and so to me, he's not a prototypical just wide receiver. He's a good athlete.
That's
that you put him in there, he's gonna make plays, right? He's like Deion. He's exactly like Deion. Deion wasn't a wide receiver, but he could run a comeback, he could run a post, he could run a few routes, and he was so effective and so athletic that he can make plays doing that. But he was an elite corner, and that's kind of how I see it.
It's just like sometimes you see like the receiver that plays a little bit of DB or the DB that plays a little bit of receiver. This guy plays every snap on both sides of the ball. I mean, it's just different.
Yeah.
615-737-1045, at least in college. Charlie next up on Titans Talkback. Charlie, what's up? Yo,
hey,
Charlie.
All right.
Troy Davis was that running back.
Troy Davis, yes. Thank you.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
Hear you guys' voice. I'm doing good. Just a couple things. Y'all mentioned strides. Striding in the wrong direction. Special teams.
Well, we mentioned strides on offense. No.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Special teams, 303 yards of return yardage, and now 41 of that was on interceptions.
But like you said, Brent, earlier,
that's ridiculous.
3 punt blocks or three blocks and 5 pressures in the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And what do you? When I listen, you guys have forgot more about football than I know, but you always said there's great quality players that come in. Maybe he'll make it on special teams. That's just like, I'm going to make $300,000 a year and I'm going to be special teams. If you're a special team player for the Titans, what does that say? I mean, think about that. That's how a guy that gets overlooked makes a roster, special teams. But the biggest thing is that the punt blocks, that's assignment football. I mean, if you're in a high school, that's blocking somebody. The other thing is, I don't know. Y'all know a lot more about this than I do, and all they ask me to do is to write checks for season tickets in the new stadium. That's all. But the product, you have a GM and a coach who may be great, but have never done it before. And you know what? You're in a fluid situation, and there's no on-the-job training at all. And I don't know. I'm just watching it today, and it's hard to look at. And I know the guys are probably trying, but I mean,
of course, that.
But there's nothing that gives you, I guess, confidence that. And I don't know, because we should have beat Chicago. I mean, it could be a different season, but now, I don't know. And so anyway, I appreciate what you guys do, but it sounds like when you're talking about analytics, 39.2, who's this, cap space, whatever, we're playing Space Invaders in Bandywood, Green Hills Mall in 1986. It's about freaking football, blocking and tackling and winning games. And where's that gone?
I appreciate the Bandywood reference. That's awesome, Charlie. Old school Nashville. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. I get the frustration. I mean, we've talked all about that. We're frustrated
totally
too.
Lost in the middle of that call. I have no
frustrated
clue.
Fan.
Yeah.
And
well, I didn't know if there was a question in there or not that I missed.
He's just venting.
Yeah, that's fine. Venting. That's fine. I just was making. I just got lost.
615-737-1045 if you want in. You want to continue? Robbie, next up. Robbie, what's up, man?
Hey, man, first off, I want to say go Vols, go Titans. And I want to calm everybody down. I mean, this guy calling in talking about Bill Belichick. What's he going to do? Is he going to coach the special teams and all the fumbling? Give me a break, dude, the defense. And they're talking about draft capital. You want draft capital. How successful have the Titans been with draft capital? You're going to get rid of your defense. If you're going to blow anything up, you don't blow up that defense, man. That defense is all we got.
Thank you, man. No,
Arden Key played like a beast.
Well,
I mean, if you're doing that for a
pieces.
resume, you ain't been doing that all year.
Okay, man. Thank you, Robbie. I appreciate it. Again, frustration. I get it. I mean, moving Arden Key isn't blowing up the defense. Moving Jeffrey Simmons, to me, is blowing up the defense.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. I think that's a good way to view it. And I think that, the sins of prior GM's draft classes should not be hoisted upon Rand Carthon. Now, is there maybe something in the water? Maybe. We'll see. But at this point, you have to give the guys that were hired and chosen or sided with in different situations time to actually right the ship. Or you're just going to be building another new ship and you're going to be looking again and then you're going to be like, well, what was this new GM supposed to do? Because the previous GM sucked. And then we're just going back through the same rotation. You just got to give guys time. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be tougher to defend that stance if more games end up like today. But
I don't suspect we'll have nothing like that again.
Yeah, I would. The way that I saw that Brian Callahan was enraged, I would be very surprised. But at the end of the day, listen to the players in the locker room. There's a lot of post-game locker room talk out there on Twitter. They're blaming themselves. The players are blaming themselves. They said we know what to do. We are being taught what to do and what to do correctly. We're not going out there and doing it.
Nice cue.
That's one of the things D-Hop said on the way out.
Yeah.
Or before on the way out.
Yeah. We're not doing it. So they are being coached and taught what to do. Mm-hmm. They're just in the moment. And it goes back to what Nick Vanette said earlier in the week. There's just these lack of football common sense. He said instincts, but there's just lack of instincts from this team.
Execution is the one thing a coach can't control, right? He can maneuver the pieces on the puzzle, but after that, his hands off. He says what he has to say in his headset, and then he's got to watch to see what happens. Now, there are times where he can put guys in the right place, as he should, more often than not, put them in the right position to make plays. But what frustrates coaches, is when you do that, and then, as we talked about before, something happens, and you're like, God, that was a perfect play call, guy wide open, but our tackle missed the block. But the quarterback overthrew him. But the receiver fell down. But the running back missed up the blitz pickup. That seems to be what is happening with this team that has them sitting here with one win because of the execution piece. Something misses every game. And today it was special teams more than anything else.
It really was.
615-737-1045. Let's go to Taylor next up on Titans Talkback. Taylor, what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Good, Taylor.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm calling. I'm a PSL holder. We drive from Memphis every home game. And with the way the season is going, how do they expect the season ticket holders and the taxpayers to pay for the stadium? At one point, are they going to say or try to do a change? Thanks for what you guys do, and I'm going to hang up and I'm going to look forward to your thoughts on it.
I'm going to let Brett answer that one.
In terms of, I missed the first part of what she said.
She
in terms
said
of changing?
Well, how do they expect people to buy PSLs, and how do they expect people to fund the stadium? Will there be any changes in that? Will fans maybe call for changes in regards to, I guess, the tax implications and all that kind of stuff?
Which
I don't think think it's done, right?
If you want to buy tickets, buy tickets. Nobody's holding your hand.
Well, I heard Will Bowling say that they are ahead of schedule in selling tickets for the new stadium.
That is what I've heard, too.
Mm-hmm.
Which was very surprising.
That they are doing well. But, I mean, seriously, like, is that a ticket purchase based on whether a team is winning in this current window or not? Because things change, man. There's nothing more fluid than teams in sports. So, like, if they're winning their ass off right now and you buy a bunch of tickets, they get in that building and then they hit a slump and fire a coach and all this stuff, then what?
Yeah.
Or do they get everything right now and build toward that day when they open that building and they're good when they run in there like y'all were when the Music City Miracle happened that season, undefeated at home, first season at that building.
Yeah. And the years...
8-8.
Yeah, I was going to say...
3 8-8s.
I was just about to say, leading up to that point, had 3 consecutive 8-8 seasons. So I guess from a fan's perspective, when you look at that, 3 consecutive 8-8 seasons, you're just right there on the brink where you can teeter one way or the other.
And you were just excited to have an NFL team.
And then, that too. And then you switch over from the Texas team to a Tennessee team, new uniforms. It was a fresh start. Then you get somebody like Javon Curse that just took the city by storm. And just like, it was kind of like the perfect storm, right? It really was.
For me, though, and it's different for everybody. For me, it's more than about whether a team is winning or losing. It's about, relationships you have with people or experiences you have with friends and the day of tailgating and all these things. Like, it's so much more than win-loss. I know that's a frustrating element.
Yeah.
It is for me, too. Like, we were talking about, like, it's tough to walk in here knowing you're going to talk for 3 hours about what just happened, 52-14. And, like, it's tough.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand it.
Let me say this. Props to Taylor, by the way.
I've driving from Memphis every day?
Yeah, I've made that Memphis drive many times. I went to college in Memphis. It is the worst 3-hour drive, and I could not imagine having to do that after a Titans loss.
Yeah, because really the only place you can stop is around Jackson, and they're always blowing up the interstate in Jackson. I have no idea what that is.
My gosh.
And I'll say this, Taylor, and I appreciate your call. Here's the other part of that is you talk about season ticket holders. As I've mentioned before in the show, I've had people come to me and say something similar to they're in that gray area of teetering of, do I want to spend the money to reserve the PSLs versus not? And here's the alternative. Relatively to NFL history, this is a new team, right? Like, the Lions have been there forever. We're watching the Commanders and Bears, like Kansas City Chiefs, like those cities have had those teams for the 100 and some odd years of football that they've had them. And so relatively, this is still somewhat new, 25, 26 years of being here where this
people think that's a long time, but you haven't, there hasn't really been generations upon generations born into Titans
fandom. And so what I'm getting at is we lose sight of the ebbs and flows of professional sports.
Yeah.
We just watch a franchise that was down for the longest time, and they had Hall of Famers. They had Barry Sanders, Megatron, Herman Moore, Johnny Morton, Brett Perryman. I even got to the defense side of the ball.
Matt Stafford for the longest time. Talking about a franchise quarterback guy they still couldn't win games. So it's not only just quarterbacks that you need, but this team's not really just a quarterback away. They're a couple things away. But quarterback can solve a lot of the issues.
Oh my gosh! And like one more offensive lineman.
Yeah. They're not that far, but it feels very far right now.
My
but they're really
point
not.
is, you have a professional franchise in your city.
Yeah.
And like, there's a whole lot of people that would love
to
have a professional football team in their
city.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are buying tickets, that can afford to buy the tickets, I think, right now. And I think that also maybe some people are looking at an investment. Hey, I can flip these season tickets. Because you get first shot with season tickets at events at the stadium.
Super Bowl included.
Yeah. So I can flip these tickets for a profit. Even if the team sucks, I can flip the tickets for a profit.
Let's look at recent memory. How's Oakland feel right now?
Yeah.
They had the Raiders for how long when they moved from L.A. to Oakland?
And then they even lost them and got them back.
Yeah.
And still lost them again.
Still lost them again. And now they don't have the A's either, eventually.
Or the Warriors.
Exactly. Right.
I told Dawn she was flying. She was going to do the Cal Berkeley game, and they ended up winning like 44-0 or something. And anyway, I was like, where are you flying into? She goes, Oakland. I'm like, you're literally the only person going into Oakland. Everything else is
coming out. Yeah, man. But think about that. So I say that to say, I'm not telling people how to spend their money.
No, never would.
But you got to be careful what you ask for now, because they could not be here.
615-737-1045.
For bigger and better.
That's true. Thomas, next up. Thomas, what's up?
Yes, hey guys, how y'all doing?
Hey, good, Thomas. Thank you.
First off, I just want to say, the Lions, I forgot what year it was when they did that Thanksgiving when Titans and Lions played each other then.
Yeah.
Lions was on the other end of that, losing when Titans beat them that bad that year.
Remember Dave Ball got the interception and did the turkey dance?
Was that Landanian White big game?
Yeah, I think that's right.
And other decision I got to talk about, Vrabel, I think, was the good guy when he was here, but when he left from Callahan, he just came in as a head coach. Doesn't know much about being a head coach, but if Vrabel was here, I think he probably would. I think we would not see the one on the end of the winning side, probably more wins a little bit. But I'm going to hang up and listen to what y'all have to say about that.
Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate it. Yeah, the Vrabel train is long gone.
Yeah, and this team wouldn't be in its current makeup with Vrabel here. Like you're, and listen, maybe some people will view this as a good thing, but you're probably not going to be heavily. You probably still have Henry here behind a similar offensive line.
Yeah.
You'd probably
not doing what he's doing in Baltimore.
You'd probably have someone like Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback. I mean, that's not. But I mean, a lot of these investments were made with shifting to the offensive philosophy. So and the defensive philosophy too, right?
Yeah.
Like the defensive philosophy for Denard Wilson is drastically different than anything that Mike Vrabel has had. And the other thing is like, again, he may have a winning record at the beginning of this season, but it's kind of like that 7-5 start to 2022. I knew that was not going to be held up because they were winning games and they were not looking like a good team. And then what they do, they end up losing the rest of the way, going on a big losing streak. And then the next year, they still had a losing season. Like Vrabel's way was not working anymore. Now, does that mean that, hey, he takes a year off, he learns, he understands, hey, well, here's how Kevin Stefanski's doing it. Maybe I build up some more relationships in this Cleveland staff, and maybe I could take some new people and some new pieces and broaden my coaching tree or resume to pull from, and he learns from his ways? Sure. But like the Vrabel that would have stayed here would have been even stuck worse in his ways with likely a worse team than what you're seeing now. But he may get you a win or two against a team like that.
Like Chicago.
But it's just fluff at that point.
And I think if you look at the NFL of recent hires, like it's an offensive-driven league. Most head coaches, I would say 90% of them last year of the ones that were new were offensive-minded coaches. How many defense coordinators got head jobs last year? 1, 2? Of all the spots that were open, 1 or 2? And so it's an offensive-driven league. They're getting guys now are even calling their own plays as head coaches. It's just they want the fans in the seats, and the way you do that is put points points on the board.
I was like just grasping for ideas this week, and I was like, why doesn't Callahan just go in the press box and call plays or not press box, but the coaching booth and call plays from up there? It's like you can't put the head coach in the coaching booth. He's got to be on the sideline. I'm like, hey man, I'm up to trying anything. But to your point, I mean, offensively, like if you look past the 52-14 and you look at what they did offensively, and I'm going to go back and watch strides. At least offensively, in terms of play calling, in terms of execution, in terms of offensive line play.
Yeah,
Calvin Ridley had a huge day.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kellum Science Behind the Stat, presented by Kellum Science, presented by Kellum Stem Cell. Let me start that one over, okay, Jackson? Kellum Science behind the stat, presented by Kellum Stem Cell. From autism to arthritis, your body, your cells, your solution. Call 615-850-4415 for your consultation. Calvin Ridley, 10 receptions, 143 yards on one play, clocked at 20.6 miles per hour. That's moving. Get you a ticket in the crossing guard at school zone. What was the difference with him today?
Calvin Ridley?
Yeah.
Got in the rhythm. And again, I talked about that before. And sometimes he made hard catches look routine. And why? Because he just had that rhythm and that built that confidence. Like the ball seemed like a beach ball coming at him. I guarantee you. And he was making tough catches look very, very easy and routine. And there was one that slant. That's not routine by any stretch of imagination. I don't care what nobody says. That's a tough catch. And he just got it, and he just had a rapport. And then the quarterback got confidence in him. He got confidence in what he was doing. It didn't matter how much separation he was, even though he was getting it. It didn't matter because he just felt like I'm gonna make every play coming my way, and he was. And that's essentially what he was saying. Like, feed me, and I got you.
Yeah, and we talked with you about that. About how important is it as a receiver to get going early? And he did today. It's interesting. Calvin Ridley, in the first quarter this season, combined 3 receptions, 21 yards in all first quarters.
Yeah.
Today, 6 for 118.
And he looked invested.
And they were 14 all before destruction.
Yeah.
And look, the play calling itself it needs to be under scrutiny throughout the year, right? I think there's proper scrutiny, but the scheme itself is working. The receivers are getting NFL open. I don't know what they were today or what they will be by the end of the week, but they were NFL average in separation. So they are getting, they've been below average in separation the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So they are getting open. So this idea that they are not being schemed open or getting open or whatever, and they are getting open. It is working. There is a quarterback issue, and for the most part, there's been an offensive line issue. And I think there's just been a lack of rhythm for sure, but the scheme itself works.
Yeah.
615-737-1045. Russ next up on Titans Talkback. Russ, what's up?
Yeah, I was just calling in to talk about the special teams play and the fact that we seem to have an issue from the beginning of the season up to now. And why are we not looking at the issues that we're having there? It seems to be never ending. But I will absolutely agree that this game today looked great, and I think we were playing great minus some flub-ups, but other than that, pretty good.
Real quick, thank you, Russ. I appreciate it. Thank you for the call. How many drives did the Detroit Lions start inside the Titans? What was it?
5.
5 inside the 30, right?
Inside the 20.
Inside the 20. 5 inside the 20.
Yeah, you're giving them 10 extra yards. 5 inside the opponent's 20.
I mean, I listen.
Have you ever seen that in the NFL?
And I'm telling you like this, I'm old. I could have played that one and been productive. I'm just saying. Matter of fact, I'll go the other side of it. I could have called that. I could have called offense.
I love what you said at the beginning of the show. It was almost like they were practicing their red zone offense.
It was. It was like they were like.
Sorry, you're right. Inside 30.
Inside 30. Okay.
5 inside the 30.
You're correct.
And I'm thinking it's just like when you script scrimmages, right? You have your red zone offense, your third down offense, and you script it like when you scrimmage another team. That's what it looked like today. They had scripted scrimmage. We're going to work on our red zone. You guys can work on the rest of your game. We're going to work on our red zone offense today. And they scored touchdowns every time. If there was a knock on the defense, I mean, I'm sure they had plenty of other mistakes and things of that nature. They gave up the big run play, was that they couldn't stop the bleeding. They could not hold them to 3 points. But to that point, this is an offensive-driven league, and you give 5 opportunities inside the 30. I mean, it's hard for any defense. And the Titans are one of the best defenses in the NFL statistically. It makes it hard for any of them to be successful.
Tennessee didn't start a drive outside of their own 30. Like, I mean, so they
that was the line.
Yeah.
Wow.
Of demarcation.
Yeah, that was it. So
I mean, just that alone, you just read that stat alone, you'd be like, that team got beat bad.
Yeah.
You know, just that stat alone.
Interesting. 615-737-1045. Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. Brent Doherty, Zach Lyons, the Dr. Kevin Dyson will take you up to Sunday Night Football. Coverage from Westwood One of Cowboys 49ers begins at 6:30. What do you guys think about that game real quick? 49ers favored by 5.5. They're 3-4. Dallas looks like a complete tire fire.
Oh,
yeah. I would be taking anything with San Francisco right now.
Right, and there's so many injuries involved.
I was going to say, so many injuries with them, though. That's what.
Yeah, Ayuk is out. Jawan Jennings is out.
Still don't know about
Kittle is questionable.
Debo Samuels.
Debo's questionable.
Yeah. Kittle.
I love that Callahan gets blamed for the interceptions. I think that's hilarious.
Man, the one looks so much like a Willis play.
The first one?
Yeah, that was bad. And the one he held the ball up for too long.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand why he was holding the ball that long.
Great play by that linebacker, too. 615-737-1045.
Who was lined up off sides, by the way.
Was he?
Oh,
I missed that.
In neutral zone.
Yeah, Mike Keith talked about it, and Coach Mack talked about it like a couple of times today.
Always something.
There's always something.
As we continue to deep dive into this 52-14 loss. We will go back to the phones again, 30 more minutes. Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit Lee Company online at leecompany.com. Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Brent Doherty, Zach Lyons, Dr. Kevin Dyson walking through this 52-14 loss. Titans now 1-7. Is that right? Yes, 1-7. Lose track. It's 1-6. 1-6. 1-6.
1-6.
Okay. They play the Patriots at home next weekend, and the Titans are a 3-point favorite.
Still?
Yes, in that game. Patriots won today.
I'll check with you on Tuesday.
So if you want the Patriots, grab them now because they're +3. So you can get 3 points with them if you want to go that direction. Jacoby Brissett led their game-winning drive today. They were down by 5 with 3 minutes to go. Game-winning touchdown drive. So I don't know what happened with Drake May. You and I were talking about that. Yeah. I haven't seen an injury that happened, but I don't know if he got pulled or it was an injury replacement, but that did happen.
To the veteran.
He did have an injury? Oh, head injury. Okay, there you go. Also, Jalen Daniels and Caleb Wilson battling it out. 12-7 Washington right now. Washington with the ball and a 5-point lead. 11 minutes to go, fourth quarter. 615-737-1045. Lines are loaded. Let's go to the phone. Tanner, what's up?
Yeah. So, I think it's
Tanner, you there?
We lost Tanner.
Lost Tanner. Let's go to Big Dog next up. Big Dog, what's up?
Hey, man, I was at Ford Field today. I heard somebody on there say was a good scheme plan. 52-14, standing there watching it. Not a good scheme. I don't know how long. Amy Ford, the second most successful GM and coach, and those two guys we have now, how patient is she going to be with this regime? Because I'm not seeing.
Well, listen, man, they've played 7 games. This regime has played 7 games. And if you want to put words in our mouth, the correct words were they looked better offensively today. They made strides today offensively. There were 262 punt and kick returns given up. There were 4 turnovers. That has nothing to do with scheme. Also, what was the number? 5 Detroit Lions drives started inside the Titans' 30.
Yeah.
That's what led to the loss. All of those ridiculous numbers. Thank you for the phone call, Big Dog. 615-737-1045.
You said it.
Anything to add?
No, to me, it's just an execution
don't put words
issue.
in my mouth.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of people that are like, "Whoa, they've made Mason Rudolph worse." Like, guys, Mason Rudolph has a 4 interception game on his resume. I mean, let's be honest. Mason Rudolph is a fine backup quarterback. You cannot win consistently every week with a backup quarterback. Sure, Malik Willis looks fine, but I will guarantee you that Malik Willis will end up, if he had to play 7 games in a row from here on in, the rest of the way in, they're going to lose some games and he's going to look bad doing it.
Before he started his first game, I asked Greg Cosell on 3HL, I said, did you get enough out of the Miami tape to evaluate what Mason Rudolph is? He said, look, man, he's a backup quarterback in the NFL. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that.
That's what he is.
And Will Levis will likely go down that path as well.
615-737-1045. I like how you take a swing at Levis even when we're not even talking about him. Rich next up. Rich, what's up, man?
He left me hanging today. Where's he at?
Rich, what's up?
How you doing?
Good, Rich. Thank you.
I just want to say, as a former football player in high school and college, and a fan of the NFL, I listen to all the sports talk show broadcasts every day, and it's kind of discouraging how negative so many people are, because I think they lose sight of just enjoying the game. It's a game, and these guys aren't perfect.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about the coaches or the players, it's a building process. I've been part of that. I've been part of the good. I've been part of the bad. But the bottom line is 52-14 today. Yeah, it sucks. But the bottom line is there were some good things you can take from that game. And
I love it. I love your positive mindset. I do. I would love to walk through life with you, man, because I'm the same way. Like, I try to be a positive-minded guy. 52-14 stuff, though. But
yeah, I mean, there were a lot of good things in that game that happened, and if you're focused on only the bad stuff, then you're missing the fun.
I think to your point, I think we started the show with the positive things, and that's what led to the previous call, was that if you just look at the offense in and of itself, they look like they made strides, right? From a play caller perspective,
standpoint, yeah,
and from an offensive standpoint.
416 net yards of total offense.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's completely flipped 180 from last week's whatever that was, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
Whatever that was. No net yards after the 10-0.
Exactly.
On first down.
Listen,
that's what happened last week.
Calvin Ridley started showing signs of Calvin Ridley.
143.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's another positive sign. Tony Pollard, right? Tony Pollard has continued to look good and has continued to make plays and moves and all this kind of stuff. So Tony Pollard has looked really good.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's not a lot to cling on because your tight ends, like you said, didn't take a leap. Your quarter. No, it's fine. Speaking of leaps, right? Speaking of leaps,
Swift just jumped over his safety. And stepped on his head on the way down.
I think everybody. I think most fans really bought into the power of positivity, and I can understand why. It was sunshine, and rainbows and unicorns all off season long. But at the end of the day.
Well, it was new. It was new. And there was hope and all these things. Yeah.
And like, I understand. I'm not digging anybody for having that kind of hype and believing all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is, look at the tight end room. Where was your number one tight end? You have no number one tight end. You may barely have a number two tight end right now. Mm-hmm. Look at your offensive line. Look at the right tackle situation. It's been terrible. And I understand Bill Callahan is supposed to be walk on water. There's only so much you can do with some of these players. Yeah, there's only so much you can do with these players. You know,
I think they have gotten better though.
Yeah, but look at the quarterback, right? Like the quarterback situation, he did not take the leap. It is Will Levis did not take the leap.
That's the biggest thing.
And now you have a backup and a career backup quarterback, which, by the way, look at how the Steelers treated Mason Rudolph. And now you're expecting Mason Rudolph to be something that the Steelers said he was not for several years.
Well, they kept drafting guys ahead of him and giving them opportunities, you know. But I think take away special teams today. If you look at the two main facets of the game, the one people tend to pay attention the most to, offense and defensive football, 14 points and the be negative side of it is not enough, right? That's very rarely going to win you football games in the National Football League. So let's put that out there as far as the negative side of things. But if you're trying to be somewhat positive with this offense, this team and its growth, you look at some of the things they were able to accomplish against a team that a lot picked to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Right? And I thought they did some things well. What happened was they got behind the big number, the scoreboard, so fast that it made it hard for the offense to get anything going. And for the defense, their defense is, shoot, man, we're in the National Football League, an offense-driven league, and they got 5 drives inside of the 30. In a lot of respects, that is a pro football red zone. That's not like college, high school red zone inside the 20. For the NFL, it's really inside the 30. Once you get inside the 30, most people, you pretty much guarantee points in the NFL.
All these kickers are making 60-yard field goals anyway.
I mean, come on, man. So, you know, but if you look at that and how they had to hold court, I mean, there's not too many. The Bears, 85 Bears weren't going to be able to do anything with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were going to give up some points. So I think, again, as a fan of somebody who been a part of this franchise and watches and wants them to win, I want to see incrementally getting better. I want to see better. The score aside, as a person who loves watching offensive football, I saw some things getting better. And I like what they starting to build as far as the passing game and things like that. Is it good enough? Of course not. You lose 52-14. It's nowhere close to being good enough. They definitely got to get better.
Right.
But I want them to build off from an offense standpoint. the things they were able to accomplish today to be able to put up 28, 30 points next week or the next week after that, whatever it may be, start actually converting some third downs so they can keep drives going. When you get to the 1 yard line, actually score.
First and goal at the 1.
Yeah, stuff like that, right?
Don't throw it 4 times in a row, please, right. Callie. Learn from that one.
And then to Zach's point earlier on the coaching aspect, on special teams, whether it's the motivation, whether it's execution, whether it's getting guys in different positions, that is obviously got to be addressed. You have got to, whether it's guys try to make plays, guys outside their lanes, whether they didn't come to balance to make tackles. I don't know. There's probably all of the above. But that can't happen.
Yeah.
You cannot lose this game by giving 300-plus yards in return yards, whether it be interception or kick game.
To hear the players talk about it, especially starting with Nick Vannett, and the way that Nick Vannett talked about it on, I think, Wednesday, and then what the players in the locker room said today, they all realize this is an execution issue. And I think you hear it from the coaches as well. You hear little things that the coaches say. This is an execution issue.
Yeah.
Does that mean that this is going to be a team that is going to rattle off 13 wins next year? Or does this mean that this is a team that the coaches will be here for 10 years? No. But what you're seeing right now that is the issue, everybody that's inside that building, day in, day out, putting in the work, is telling you that it is an execution issue.
Yeah.
615-737-1045. In terms of growth for the offensive line, in terms of sacks, first 3 games, this offensive line, this team gave up 15 sacks in the first 3.
Dang.
The last 4 games, 5 sacks.
Again, that's what we're not talking about, right?
And Pollard has had room to run.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. But, yeah, I mean, the special teams are hideous.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can say about it. I mean,
no, today
it's
was just terrible.
ridiculous.
That was just so blatant today, just because it was just like, God, should we kick it? Should we kick it out of bounds? Like, it was one of those.
Oh, I thought they should have gone for it on 4th down. And literally, I was by myself and said out loud, go for it. Why are you punting to him? He's just going to run it back.
Yeah.
And then boom.
Sure.
And also, got to say something. I was going through the Chiefs because Dave Taub is one of the best special teams coaches in the business. They kick it out of the end zone at the highest rate in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Please, Tennessee Titans. Please, Colt Anderson. Please, Nick Folk. If Nick Folk can't do it, just sign a kicker at this point to do it. Kick it out of the end zone every time. And that's what every team should be doing, because this rule is set up to have explosive runs.
Yeah.
And that's why they made this rule, right? They wanted to make the kickoff matter. They wanted to make the kickoff exciting. Well, it's working. But man, it sure sucks if you don't have good coverage unit, and these players are not doing their job. That is what Mike Brown said in the locker room today. The special teams players are not doing their job.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you just gotta kick it out of the end zone.
Yeah.
260.
But they had, for the most part, at least beginning of the year, I feel like he was getting it in
I looked last week because I was frustrated by this. It was actually 2 weeks ago. They were either last or second to last in kickoff return average yardage allowed and punt return yardage, because, I mean, Stonehouse is kicking them deep, but he's not getting the height that he used to. So there's a ramp up. I mean, you could see it. I mean, there's a long ramp up for a punt returner to get going. 615-737-1045. We'll take a look at next week's opponent, the New England Patriots, when we come back. This is Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company. Brent Doherty, Zach Lyons, Kevin Dyson with you until 6:30. It's time for the Eurofix look ahead. Now we look ahead to next week's opponent in the look ahead presented by Eurofix. Let me remind you that Eurofix repairs everything European that you drive and below dealer pricing. ASE certified technicians, a local company that has serviced Middle Tennessee for more than 2 decades. Visit EurofixOnline.com. Next week, the Titans take on the New England Patriots here in Nashville. What do you guys think about that matchup? Titans a 3-point favorite early against the Patriots.
Oh, man.
It's about the same to me.
And it's at home, right?
Yep.
So, man, you'd hate to lose that game in front of the home crowd. I mean, I think they'll end up winning that game. And
look, Zach, hot takes.
Some positivity right here, okay? I think the Tennessee Titans are the better team than the New England Patriots. I know the New England Patriots won a game against the Jets, but there's just something sour going on with the Jets right now.
Actually.
Jets are 2-6.
Yeah, and they should have probably beat the Jets.
Yeah.
Even with if it's Jacoby Brissett versus Drake May, I don't think it really matters. But I do
For those that don't know, Drake May left with a head injury. Jacoby Brissett led the team on a comeback drive to win it 15-24, 132. Was only sacked once.
Yeah, I just think that this team, whether it's Levis or Rudolph, which I kind of lean that maybe Levis comes back for this game.
I think so.
And I think that this would be, I think it's going to be a win. I think they'll look competent, but I also don't think that's going to be indicative of the rest of the season.
New England struggles to run the football. Ramondre Stevenson today, 20 for 48. He did have 2 touchdowns, so they can run it when they get down there. But anyway, so maybe an avenue there defensively to kind of shut that run game down and make whatever quarterback you just mentioned beat you, which to me, I
should probably get Snead back this week too.
Yeah, I'm with you. Even though they're 1-6, I'm leaning Titans minus the 3 right now.
Which, depending on your outlook for the system, you may not want them to win.
I just think it just can't get any worse. So, and I don't necessarily think New England is a team that scares you coming in. If we talking about, say, Buffalo, this is flipped, and this was Buffalo coming in, I'd be like, y'all crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Because that's a team destined to make a run in the playoffs, and they're starting to figure out some things offensively, and they got better when they added Cooper, which was right in time for the Titans game.
Bills won today in Seattle 31-10. That was Josh Allen's first game up there in that crowd noise situation. And
is that really his first game in Seattle?
Yep, 31-10.
And they look good. Chiefs look good. I mean, so I say that to say this is 2 teams that are trying to figure out their identity, new head coaches, what direction. Again, there's one of the teams that hired a defensive-minded head coach. There's one, the Patriots.
He called his team soft.
Yeah.
And they came out and played well.
Yeah. And they're trying to figure out their identity and which way to go. With young quarterbacks, backed up, journeyman-type backups, if you will. Rudolph wasn't as much of a journeyman as Brissett, but you get what I'm saying there. And it's very similar. So to me, this is who makes the fewest mistakes comes out on top, because I think both teams are searching for an identity. And for the Patriots standpoint, they were trying to put back some back-to-back. Like, they just won today, and they want to win next week, kind of stream some stuff together, some wins together. The Titans just need to get off that losing streak. What's this, 3 in a row, 4 in a row?
3 in a row.
3 in a row?
Yes. Oof.
That's bad. That's bad.
Quickly, with regard to the traded players this week, DeAndre Hopkins, 2 receptions, 29 yards. That game just ended 27-20. Chiefs with the win. They're 7-0. Ernest Jones for Seattle in that 31-10 loss, 15 tackles.
He had a lot of. That sounds like the guy that had a lot of opportunities to make tackles today.
Yeah, and that too. Yeah, that was too special the way Buffalo offense was playing.
Yeah.
But, and it might be scheme. That's why you say it's like Landry's different in this scheme, right, compared to what he was before.
And, no Jerome Baker should play next week as well. Yep. Cedric Gray maybe come back. I mean, you're getting some players back. You should be able to win this game.
Let's go to Shay next up. Shay, what's up?
Hey, buddy.
What up?
Hey.
How you doing, man?
You got me?
Yeah, we got you.
Good, buddy. Mr. Dyson, I got to see you run down that left sideline on the Music City Miracle. And it was amazing. And I also was one of the lucky ones that got drawn in the lottery to go to the Super Bowl, and I got to see you come up a yard short. So I've been a day one fan forever.
And that's why you buy tickets. You never know when those moments happen, man. And you never forget them.
You don't.
For real.
You never do. And but I was super disappointed. I went to buy my PSLs for the new stadium last night. And it was just something that me and all the ones around me that said they can't afford it. And we've been supporters since the late 90s when we was playing at Vandy. And I just wanted to voice my opinion and
okay, Shay.
And say go Titans.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. 615-737-1045, 615-737-1045. Cedric next up. Cedric, what's up?
Listen, man, we talk about Will Levis making boneheaded plays and stuff like that all the time, but, dude, Callahan makes boneheaded coaching decisions in every single game, man. At the end of the half, you have got to take the points right there, get some momentum. You have a struggling team. You're going to get the ball back, but instead he goes for fourth down again, loses all the momentum, loses all the hope. It's just his teams find ways to lose games every single week, aside for the Miami game. And it's one of those things. Dice, you can talk on this, man. In the NFL, either players have it, coaches have it, or you don't have it. And right now, that dude looks like he does not have it. And I'm going to leave y'all with this, man. You can coin it if you want. It's time to play poor for Shador. I'm out.
That's a good one. I've heard Saboteur.
I'm going to see that T-shirt said. I'm going to see that T.
Yeah, I've heard Saboteur for Shador, Secure Shador, and Manure for Shador. So I like that one. Play poor for Shador.
Play poor for Shador. But one thing I agree with him on all that stuff was that end of the half, and I said that at the beginning. That right there was a momentum spirit killer, and I get it. If you score on one of those 4 downs where you pass, then it's like, okay, we got something because we get the ball back at the end of the half, at the start of the next half, everything. But I don't know if you lost faith in your offensive line or if you felt like you just had the right play calls on all 4 of those downs as far as passing. I don't know. But they needed something out of that right there before the half. And if you get that, who knows what changes in that second half? Because it was a big play, got you down there, momentum, and then, you know what I mean?
Well,
it was like,
listen, I'm not there to take the field. I don't agree with taking the field goal. I know that caller said take the points.
I was going to ask.
But you got to get the touchdown.
There are 2 different things. Do you go for it on 4th down or do you kick the field goal?
If you're planning on going to 4th down, you should probably have run 1 or 2 of those.
My biggest problem is they passed 4 times.
Yes, for sure.
Exactly.
But, I mean, the field goal is not going to help you when you're down 35-14 already.
It was 28-14.
It
was 28-14.
I wouldn't have gone for the field goal, though.
I'm not. Well, if they're going for 4th down, even if you go, it's 28-10. I get the ball back. If I go down and score, it's 28-17.
It was 35-14.
No, it wasn't.
To correct, yeah.
It was?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was 28-14, and then they went back down.
No, because remember my stat, 35 points for the Lions in the first half, most points scored in a half since October 18, 1970.
Let's see.
I could have sworn it was 28-14, then they went down.
But that goes back to the point of run Pollard through there, man. That dude is a bulldog.
At least one time.
Right?
At least one time.
So, 52-14 is the final. Titans and Patriots coming up on Sunday over at Nissan Stadium. That is our look ahead presented by Eurofix. That's EurofixOnline.com. So Sunday Night Football coming up, Cowboys and 49ers. 49ers a 5.5-point favorite. A lot of injured players involved in that game. And then Monday night is the New York Giants against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers at 5-2. Trying to get to 6-2 against a bad football team at home. So there's that. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us for sure. Appreciate all of the participation. Titans radio coverage produced by Philip Noel and Brad Willis. Studio producer Jackson Williams. Thank you, Jackson. Scoreboard producer Lucas Panzica. Happy birthday, Lucas. It was yesterday. Network producer Joseph Bonanno. Promotions director Rich Ferris. Director of sales Hunter Rice. General manager Allison Warren. Operations manager Paul Mason. Executive producer Rhett Bryan. Catch all the analysis and reaction all day long. Monday on 104.5 The Zone. For Zach Lyons and Dr. Dyson, I'm Brent Doherty. Sunday Night Football is next. Hope you have a great night. See ya.